The clink of champagne flutes echoed through the grand ballroom, a symphony of celebration that masked the undercurrent of tension I felt as I stood beside my new husband, Ethan, at our wedding reception. The room was a vision of opulence, crystal chandeliers, casting golden light over tables draped in ivory linens, roses spilling from centerpieces, and laughter bubbling like the champagne in our guests' glasses. I was radiant in my lace gown, my smile practiced and perfect, but my eyes kept darting to my mother-in-law Margaret, who hovered near the head table with a look I couldn't quite place. She'd never warmed to me, her smiles always thin, her words laced with subtle barbs about my modest background. Ethan, ever the optimist, insisted she'd echo me around. But, as she approached with a flute of champagne in her manicured hand, my instincts screamed caution. "To the happy couple," she purred, her voice smooth as silk, pressing the glass into my hand with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I thanked her, my fingers brushing hers, and in that fleeting moment, I saw Ita faint flicker of something sly, her gaze lingering on the glass a fraction too long. My heart skipped. I'd heard whispers of her ruthlessness, stories of how she'd handled obstacles in Ethan's life before, but I'd dismissed them as gossip. Now, as the bubbles fizzed in the flute, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. I glanced at Ethan, laughing with his groomsmen, oblivious to the weight of the moment. Margaret turned away, her heels clicking toward the crowd, but not before I caught her watching me from the corner of her eye. My pulse quickened. Was I paranoid? Or had she slipped something into my drink? The thought was absurd poison at a wedding, but her behavior, her insistence on handing me that specific glass, gnawed at me. I looked down at the champagne, its golden hue sparkling innocently, and then at Ethan's untouched flute on the table. Without a word, I swapped them, my movements swift but subtle, my smile never faltering, as I raised his glass to my lips for a toast. The room cheered, glasses clinking, but my eyes locked on Margaret. Her face froze for a split second, a crack in her polished facade, before she recovered, sipping her own drink. My mind raced. What had she done? Was it a prank, a sedative, or something worse? I played along, pretending to sip, my lips barely touching the rim, while watching her every move. She mingled effortlessly, but I noticed her glance my way, her brow twitching as she saw me drinking. Ethan, clueless, pulled me onto the dance floor, his warmth grounding me as we swayed to a slow melody. I whispered my suspicions to him, expecting him to laugh it off, but his face darkened. "She's intense, but she wouldn't." He trailed off, doubt creeping into his voice. I urged him to play along, to switch his glass back with mine when no one was looking. He hesitated, then nodded, his trust in me outweighing his disbelief. As we danced, I scanned the room for clues, my heart pounding with every step. Margaret was now chatting with Ethan's uncle, but her eyes kept flicking toward us. I felt a chill had she seen the swap. The night wore on, the toasts endless, the music louder, but I couldn't shake the dread. I excused myself to the restroom, splashing cold water on my face, trying to steady my nerves. When I returned, Ethan was pale, his hand trembling as he pulled me aside. "I drank from the glass," he whispered, his voice tight. "The one you gave me. I feel off." Panic clawed at my chest. I scanned for Margaret, who was now nowhere in sight. I dragged Ethan to a quiet corner, my mind spiraling. Had I miscalculated? Had she tampered with both glasses, anticipating a switch? I called for a doctor among the guests, a family friend who rushed over, checking Ethan's pulse and pupils. "Could be a mild sedative," he murmured, "or something else. We need to get him to a hospital." The room spun as I realized the gravity of what I'd done. I'd switched the glasses to protect myself, but in doing so, I might have endangered Ethan. Guilt and fury warred within me as I held his hand, his grip weak but steady. The ambulance arrived discreetly, and as they wheeled Ethan out, I confronted Margaret in the hallway. "What did you do?" I hissed, my voice low to avoid a scene. Her eyes widened, feigning innocence, but I saw the flicker of fear. "I don't know what you mean," she said, her voice icy. "You're hysterical." I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but Ethan needed me. At the hospital, tests confirmed a small dose of a tranquilizer in his system, nothing lethal, but enough to make him drowsy, disoriented. Relief flooded me, followed by rage. Margaret had wanted to humiliate me, to make me falter in front of everyone, perhaps to paint me as unfit for her son, but she hadn't counted on my suspicion, my quick thinking. When we returned home days later, Ethan confronted her. She denied everything, tears in her eyes, claiming it was a misunderstanding, that she'd only meant to calm my nerves with a mild herbal remedy. Ethan, torn between us, asked for space. I knew the truth, though she'd underestimated me. From that day I kept her at arm's length, my trust in her shattered. The wedding photos show a perfect day, but I see the moment I outsmarted her, the moment I chose to protect myself. Ethan recovered fully, and our marriage grew stronger, built on a shared understanding of his mother's games. Margaret never admitted her fault, but she never crossed me again. The champagne flute, now a symbol of my vigilance, sits on our mantel, a reminder that love may bind us, but trust is earned, not given.